Hello and welcome to Cooking Through the Catalog. I'm Devera with Gwinnett County Public Library. Every month of this series, I'll pick a category of cookbooks in the GCPL catalog. We'll learn about the basics of that type of cookbook, talk about a few cookbooks in the GCPL catalog and what I found in them, and then make some of the recipes in these cookbooks. So for the month of March, I decided to look through cookbooks that were Indian recipes. Why? Well, in March of this year, there's a huge festival called the Holi Festival. It's also known as the Festival of Colors. We have lots of books about the Holi Festival, and I've included a link at the end of our program for you to find them quick and easy in the GCPL catalog. I was fortunate enough to attend a Holi Festival a couple of years ago with my granddaughter, and it was so much fun. Typically, everyone wears white clothing, and when you leave, you pretty much have every color of the rainbow all over you. So what is the Holi Festival? Holi has been celebrated in the Indian subcontinent for centuries, with poems documenting celebrations dating back to the 4th century CE. It marks the beginning of spring after a long winter, symbolic of the triumph of good over evil. It is typically celebrated in March, corresponding to the Hindu calendar month of Falguna. On the night of Holi, they hold a bonfire. On the next day, called Dhuledi, which is also known as the Festival of Colors, entire streets and towns turn red, green, and yellow as people throw colored powder or chalk into the air and splash them on others. Each color carries a meaning. Red, for example, symbolizes love and fertility, while green stands for new beginnings. People also splash water on each other in celebration. Water guns are used to squirt water, while balloons filled with color water are also flung from rooftops. Later in the day, families gather together for festive meals. It is also common to distribute sweets among neighbors and friends. Let's talk a little bit about Indian cooking. First things first, invest in spices if you plan on making Indian recipes frequently. Many of the cookbooks found in the catalog had recipe after recipe of various spice mixes, and you'll use them over and over again. I'm fortunate to work with a coworker, Deepa, and a branch manager, Radha, who are originally from India. According to them, these are the must-have spices if you're cooking an Indian recipe. The spices that both Deepa and Radha said are must-haves include cumin seeds and ground cumin, mustard seeds and mustard powder, turmeric powder, chili powder, and garam masala. You can make your own garam masala mixture, or you can purchase it from an Asian or Indian grocery store, as well as larger indoor farmers markets. In addition to the spices we just talked about, a lot of recipes call for ghee, which is another name for clarified butter. You can easily make ghee yourself, but if you're looking to save time, you could purchase ghee in grocery stores in a solid form and then simply warm it up for the liquid form typically used in recipes. So let's get into cookbooks in the catalog and the recipes I decided to cook this month. The first cookbook is Easy Indian Cooking, 101 Fresh and Feisty Indian Recipes by Hari Nayak. There are photos on almost every page, and the recipes are those you can cook rather quickly. Well, for Indian food. From this cookbook, I'm making oven-roasted spiced eggplant. And just as a heads up, this is not the huge bulbous eggplants you usually see with dishes like eggplant parmesan. These use Asian eggplants, which are longer and more slender. To make the oven-roasted spiced eggplant, you'll need 4 medium-sized purple Asian eggplants, a half cup or 125 milliliters of oil, a half teaspoon of salt, plus more to taste, 1 large onion thinly sliced, 1 teaspoon of minced garlic, a half teaspoon of ground cayenne pepper, a half teaspoon of ground turmeric, a half teaspoon of cumin seeds, toasted and coarsely ground, or you can just use ground cumin, 2 tablespoons of de-seeded and minced green chili peppers, 2 tablespoons of minced green onions, also known as scallions, and 10 grams of fresh cilantro, which is also known as coriander leaves, for garnish. Preheat the oven to 450 degrees. Cut the eggplant into a 1-inch dice. Lightly toss the eggplant with 1/4 cup or 65 milliliters of the oil and half a teaspoon of salt. Place the eggplant on a baking sheet or roasting pan and bake in the center of the oven until lightly brown and the flesh is softened, about 10 minutes. Remove from the oven and set aside. Heat the remaining 1/4 cup or 65 milliliters of oil in a heavy skillet over medium-high heat. Add the onion, garlic, chili powder, turmeric, and cumin and stir to mix well. Lower the heat to medium and cook, stirring frequently until the onion is well softened and translucent but not browned, about 10 minutes. Add the chili peppers to the onion mixture and saute for about a minute. Then add the roasted eggplant and salt to taste and gently stir the ingredients together using a spatula. Just before serving, stir in the green onions. Garnish with cilantro leaves and serve hot or cold. Moving on to the next cookbook in the catalog is Indian in 7. Delicious Indian Recipes in 7 Ingredients or Fewer by Monisha Bhardwaj. Not only does this cookbook have a beautiful, large photos of almost all the dishes, but each recipe has both the American and Indian or Hindu name. What is fantastic about this cookbook is the recipes don't have a huge list of ingredients, and if you're anything like me, I don't have a big kitchen, so using recipes with a lot of ingredients really takes up my counter space and storage space. From this cookbook, we'll make chickpeas in a spiced curry sauce, also known as chana masala. Remember, chickpeas are also known as garbanzo beans. In order to make this recipe, you'll first need to make a quick and easy garlic and ginger paste. To make this, you'll need equal parts of crushed garlic and ginger paste, which you can find in tubes in the grocery store, and 2 ounces of vegetable oil or more as needed. To make the garlic and ginger paste, simply add the ginger paste and crushed garlic in equal amounts to a food processor. Blend until smooth, adding in oil as needed to make the smooth consistency. Store in a sealed, airtight container in the refrigerator for up to 3 weeks. The remainder of the ingredients you'll need for the recipe are the following: 2 onions sliced, 3 tablespoons of sunflower oil separated, but if you're following a heart-healthy diet, use vegetable oil, 1 tablespoon of tomato paste, 1 teaspoon of ground turmeric, 1 teaspoon of chili powder, 1 teaspoon of ground coriander, 1 14-ounce can of garbanzo beans, also known as chickpeas, drained and rinsed, and 2 tablespoons of chopped fresh cilantro leaves for garnish. But here's a quick note before we start. Draining and rinsing the beans is important. When doing this, it rinses off extra liquid, but also the majority of the sodium in the can. Heat 1½ tablespoons of oil in a heavy base saucepan and fry the onions on high heat for 4 to 5 minutes until they start to turn golden brown. Reduce the heat to medium and cook further for 7 to 8 minutes until they are soft. Add 1 tablespoon of the garlic ginger paste and cook for a few seconds, then add the tomato paste and fry for a minute or until well blended. Remove from the heat and carefully transfer the mixture to a blender. Add just enough cold water to barely cover the mixture, then blend until smooth. Then set it aside. Heat the remaining 1½ tablespoons of oil in the same pan and add the ground spices. Fry on high heat for a few seconds until they change color. Then add 3 to 4 tablespoons of cold water and continue to cook until the water has evaporated, leaving the cooked spices in oil. Add the chickpeas and mix well. Then cook on high heat for 3 to 4 minutes until the chickpeas have heated through. Stir in the sauce from the blender and season with salt. Rinse out the blender with 2 to 3 tablespoons of cold water and add this to the pan as well. Bring to a boil, then reduce the heat. Cover and simmer for 5 to 6 minutes until heated through. Garnish with cilantro and serve hot. This is a great side dish or can be used as an entree if it's served with rice. Finally, I love the Everything Cookbook series. We have a multitude of the Everything series, even for Indian recipes. The Everything Indian Slow Cooker Cookbook by Prerna Singh is fantastic for those who do not have a lot of time for cooking. Every recipe uses a slow cooker, so you can put it together, leave it for a bit, and come back ready to eat a delicious dish. From the Everything Indian Slow Cooker Cookbook, I decided to make a dessert of firni with pistachios and cashews. This is similar to a rice pudding, but this uses ground uncooked rice instead of whole rice. For the firni with pistachios and cashews, you'll need a half cup of uncooked rice. I used basmati. A half cup of cashews unsalted. 4 cups of whole milk or low-fat milk, but not non-fat. 1 cup of heavy cream. 1 cup of sweetened condensed milk. 1 to 2 pinches of saffron. 1 teaspoon of crushed cardamom seeds. And a half cup of chopped roasted pistachios unsalted. Thoroughly clean the rice with water. Mix the cashews and rice together and soak in water for a couple of hours. Strain all the excess water and, using a food processor or blender, make a paste of rice and cashews. The paste should not be very smooth, but rather granular, so that you can feel the texture when rubbed between your fingers. Set it aside. In a slow cooker, combine together the milk, heavy cream, and condensed milk. Cover and cook on high for 1 hour or on low for 2 hours. Add the rice and cashew paste, saffron, and crushed cardamom seeds. Cover and cook for 1.5 hours on high or about 3 hours on low. Stir every 10 to 15 minutes until the pudding starts to thicken. If the pudding starts to thicken before the given time, turn off the heat. If you prefer a thicker and denser pudding, keep cooking. Let the pudding cool. Stir occasionally to prevent it from forming a thick layer on top. Once the pudding has cooled down a little, but is still warm, transfer it to serving dishes and either let it chill before serving or serve it warm. Garnish with the chopped pistachios. In looking through the library catalog, I found a vast number of cookbooks with Indian recipes. These are some of my favorites that I found. They range from simple, quick, and easy to more advanced knowledge of cooking and specialty ingredients. Here are some resources for today's program. To help you find cookbooks in the catalog that have Indian recipes, there is a quick and easy link. I've also included links about the Holi Festival and India, as well as famous Indian chefs. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you next month in Cooking Through the Catalog.